welcome to episode 6 of Placing Talent with Physemp. I'm your host, Sales and Marketing Director here at Physicians Employment. My name is Paul Strubel. Today we're going to be focusing on something that is popping up in conversations more frequently when I'm talking with clients, and that is the idea of being independently owned. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be independently owned and how that impacts our clients when they're evaluating resources and who they choose to work with. So first and foremost, we are going to start with what does it mean to be independently owned. Many corporations, many companies out there that you'd be obviously familiar with might have a board of directors, might have a large hierarchy where it gets murky about who's ultimately calling the shots. When a company is independently owned, it means there is no board of directors, essentially. There is just a singular owner. In our case, Robert Trogue has owned the company over 30 years here. He is the guiding vision. He is the person who is where the buck stops. It's where all the final decisions are made about how the company is owned and operated. And so knowing that, you can get a sense of how this company's values are then carried on into the way that we treat clients. There is not necessarily, like, obviously it's a company. Obviously it's something, this is a business that we operate. But ultimately, decisions are not made necessarily based upon squeezing every last dime out of the company each year. It might be that the company is making decisions based upon its future and what's best for that bottom line down the road and not necessarily this year. So there is that ability to have foresight, to sort of take in market conditions and react to the different circumstances that we're seeing around us. So that's independently owned. It's one person, it's a singular vision, and that is the way Physemp is operated and has been operated the last 30 years. When you have a company that isn't independently owned and operated, like let's say there's a board, let's say there's a private equity firm that owns the company, there's a parent company that owns the company, they may not be getting the best, let's say, advice when it comes to how to move forward with a company when crucial decisions have to be made. It might ultimately be more about how much profit does this company make at the end of the year and how can we squeeze every last penny out of this company. If you're 6 levels up just looking at a P&L sheet on how does this company produce within the grand scheme of all the companies we own, it's a little bit of a different philosophy there. So those are your two main differences. Now, how does this impact our clients and how do we look at that in the marketplace and in the grand scheme of things here? Well, I think the biggest one is obviously this is something I'm starting to hear increasingly from our clients, and we're noticing it as part of the way the temperature is taken on different resources. If a hospital comes to me and they ask the question, are you independently owned? If a recruitment firm comes to me and asks that question, are you independently owned? What they are trying to suss out by figuring out that question is there a potential conflict? Is there a potential, let's say, competition amongst the company that they're buying from for leads? Now, we have seen in the past 3-4 years within our industry, our biggest competitors are now all owned by either private equity firms, large hospital systems, or larger recruitment firms. And so when you are purchasing from a resource that has the potential to compete with you, I think it's worth trying to figure out who's got your best interest in mind. Now, they of course will say, we don't do that. We don't poach the best leads. All the leads are used simultaneously by everybody and the system works the way it always has. Well, if it were just a question of we bought this company, we bought this firm, we bought this job board so that because it was a good company and it aligns with our values, well, so do pumpkin patches in October, right? Anybody can look at that and say, well, here's something that aligns with our values and here's something that's profitable. Why aren't you buying that? In these cases, a hospital system, a large recruitment firm, a private equity, when they're going after particular job boards and they're buying them and they have a need for those leads, I think it's a fair assumption to make that there's going to be a situation where they're going to pluck the best leads first. Now, of course, we can't say that for sure, but I think when you put two and two together, it becomes very clear that that might happen. Here at Physicians Employment, we are dedicated to our clients. We do not recruit. We do not siphon off any leads. We are only trying to provide resources to our clients. When a hospital purchases our database, they're getting the same look at that database that everybody else gets. It's a completely fair ecosystem when it comes to who gets the leads and when they get them. And so that's a really important part of the way we operate and do business. Now that all trickles down from our owner, Robert Trogue, and the philosophy of the business here and being independently owned. We have no skin in the game. We're not trying to recruit. We don't place doctors. We don't place nurse practitioners. We're not invested in competing against our clients the way that it's conceivable to think that a lot of our competitors may be. If they're owned by a recruitment firm, if they're owned by a hospital system, why wouldn't they want to look at the best leads before they go public? Just makes sense. So these are things to consider. The second thing to consider when you're, approaching leads in this day and age, what you want to look at is there's going to be a few things. Number one is the integrity of the lead source. Are they skimming the best leads first? They could be. You want to consider that. But I think it's also worth considering, Coke doesn't buy Pepsi products. You do not want to be a recruitment firm giving your major competition money. That is where that money flows uphill. If you're buying from a resource that's owned by your competition, that's how that works. So think about that when you are making decisions on which dollars you're going to put towards resources. I think it's always worth looking at those things. How we spend our money is a way that we get to vote in our society. And so it's always a way that we value what we do here in being independently owned. We value what we do here in terms of not having skin in the game. What our goals are to make our clients successful first and foremost. So that's where we are. Not much more to say about that topic. I think everything's been covered. We'll be back in a couple weeks with episode 7. Like and subscribe if you like these videos and you like this content. We'll keep pushing them out from the front lines here at Physemp, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Take care.